War has always been about the urge to conquer in order to exert authority. It's the main reason for many of the great battles in humanity. The first act of treachery or violence was between two brothers. As the story goes, it appears that jealousy was the motivating factor which sparked the thought to commit to doing something murderous. The brother that was brought to his demise was simply offering pleasant gifts to his maker, and without flaunting or boasting, he was struck with a fatal blow from the blind side. The two brothers were named Cain and Abel. In many cases, going to war is a frivolous and childish thing to a certain degree, if you ask me. Why can't we be civil in our agreements amongst each other without the result of a casualty? Well, we can't, because one party will always have some sort of agenda or bigot ideology, and if it's not their way, then it's going to be met with a fight. Philosopher and author Albert Camus once said, "When a war breaks out, people say, 'It's too stupid, it can't last long.' But though a war may be, too stupid, that doesn't prevent its lasting. Stupidity has a knack of getting its way." In Greek mythology, during the chariot and horse days, when there were kings and queens, there was a war that broke out simply because of an unfaithful wife. The king who was married to this disloyal wife summoned an army to go retrieve her, as she was nestled up with a prince from another region. They fled to a city called Troy, but quickly they were discovered, and all of the opposition that tried to stop him from his quest were slaughtered. Now, this story hasn't been validated or discredited, but whether it's a true historic event or not isn't important. What is important is that it's commonly underestimated how we overlook at times that our reasoning for initiating plans to annihilate our foe is because of our enamoration for a woman. Men will fight and grumble over anything that they feel is valuable. I remember being in college and seeing two roommates argue over a bottle of beer when there were more than half remaining from the 24-pack that sat in the refrigerator. I think there was something else going on there because neither of them were intoxicated. In about 24 hours, the two friends settled their differences and continued on being buddies thereafter. It turns out that they both had a romantic pursuit for the same woman. The innocence of a person who lives their life focusing on their own priorities, but without knowing, can be viewed as a threat to another who has self-conscious anxieties. There's a lot of insecure people in the world these days, and it has much to do with being unhappy with themselves. I believe having an internal conflict or dealing with a psychological challenge is the battle we all need to overcome if we want to exhibit healthier lifestyle habits. It's been reported by dozens of credible psychologists who study the mental faculties and behaviors of humans that 40% of men will never talk about their problems, while 1 in 5 adults live with a mental condition. They also concluded that 90% of citizens in the United States are currently living undercover with a mental crisis. We can only imagine how many people in other countries have similar predicaments. Do you know the difference between a rich man and a poor man? It's not the money. That actually has only a small significance on the individual or business. The only difference between poverty and wealth is the mindset. Yahoo Finance stated that less than a third of households inherit any money, and between 70% and 80% receive no inheritance at all. So if it's not being handed down within the household, how are people obtaining abundance? Well, they have realized a problem and sought out to find the solution. The man with little to no resources has the same limitless or even infinite opportunities as the man who has plenty of assets. Without any severe hindrance to disable a person from reaching higher heights, there's no one stopping you from achieving success but yourself. In addition, you can also let the jealousy of others influence you to have inner conflict that'll deviate your strides. The first step to solving a problem is by accepting that you have one. The person who dismisses an issue is the same as neglecting responsibilities or having a tendency to reject accountability. It's like seeing a child point a finger to another when they have been caught in the act of wrongdoing. It's just more convenient to deflect the attention away if you are the accuser than to agree with being the reason for the problem. Instead of claiming the insurrection and admitting to the fault, the majority will initiate a verbal outburst of insults or provoke a physical altercation. These things don't need to be so, but somehow we have developed an unhealthy desire to get what we want, regardless of the destructive ways to get it. British pacifist and philosopher Bertrand Russell said, "War does not determine who is right, only who is left." I'll add that not only does it leave people lifeless or disfigured in most cases, but it brings about catastrophes that could have been avoided. Norman Schwarzkopf, who was a general in the United States Army, said, "The more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war." He was referring to making plans to not only get a mission completed, but to also eliminate any fatalities while in pursuit. The commander was an anti-war activist like his father was when he served in the Army as well. I suppose they both submitted themselves to the oath and services because they wanted to make a difference by word and deeds, rather than resolving to the use of weapons of mass destruction. In my strong opinion, I believe we have the conduct of irregulated children when we are in our adult years. And nowadays, we have some children being forced to have the mannerisms and conduct of an adult, while some adults appear to be mature by their age, but are still carrying around a childlike mindset. A great teacher once said, "When I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I set aside childish ways." Well, that's how it's supposed to be. We are supposed to grow and mature in life, not remain infants. The real paradigm of it all is that we have conflicts within ourselves that makes us battle the internal issues we may have. According to a poll, 96% of people who invested in personal development seminars and courses failed to achieve their goals. It is because they failed to implement the information that they were exposed to in order to replace their old habits with life-changing new ones. It's hard work to change your habits, but if you take it serious enough, you'll manage to outpace your peers, and you'll become someone with great value and skills. Knowledge will beget skills, skill will beget value, and value will beget wealth.